Howdy, everybody. It's Eli again. So, I've recently gotten back into rawhide braiding. I took about a year break. So, for those of you that have been wanting more videos, um, I guess this is a good thing now. Kind of coming back to it. And with that being said, I wanted to kind of change the way that I do things a little bit. I had a couple folks over the last year contact me about doing rawhide braiding lessons, and I personally have a little bit of a problem with that. I don't really agree with the premise of charging people to teach them traditional crafts and arts. I think that the way we preserve these things is by passing this stuff down freely. I don't think that we should have any sort of gatekeeping measures. And by no means am I saying that people that charge for their time shouldn't be doing it. For me personally, it's not something that I'm really interested in doing, but I do still like the educational piece of this. I like getting the information out there to people. So the new idea is to start putting out more educational videos here on YouTube that are free of charge to everybody. They will remain free of charge. But the idea is if you want to support that kind of work, that we're going to try to get up a donation site so that people can donate if they wish. And for me, I would feel much better about that rather than making people pay for this information. So in the meantime, if anybody is interested in that, please just reach out to me. With that being said, today we're going to cover the side button, as it is known in the braiding circles. I believe it's also got another name as the headhunter's knot, as Mike Hickey or Tom Hall calls it. But it's a braid that I very commonly use on my rain keep or not my rain keepers, excuse me, on my bosal bodies. Just that little side button underneath the nose button. I use that a lot. And then if you want to come over here, this is what the button looks like. So it kind of has V's in one direction and then V's in the other direction. And that is the button that we're going to be covering today. Okay, so first thing to do is just get your orientation with your string as far as how much string you're going to need for this. These were 5 or 6 foot pieces initially, and I can typically braid at least 3, mostly 4 of these little buttons with a piece that long. So I think the piece would probably need to be about 18 inches to cover this size foundation. All right, so on this button, instead of starting from left, like you're standing in, being on the left hand side and down and coming around this way, like most knots do, we're actually going to come the opposite direction. So we're going to have our standing end coming out here to the bottom right. Now, you're going to leave yourself about 4 to 6 inches worth of standing end. You're going to pass it around the back. And then after you pass around the back, you're going to come over the top of your working end. And you're just going to make a quick overhand knot and pass it back. So now what this is going to look like after that part is the standing end is going to be coming out to the right and up. All you're going to do is take it and move it back down below. Now you're going to take your working end and you're going to see that you have this first cross, and make sure to hold this down with your thumb, by the way. You have to hold it down, otherwise it's just going to flip back up. But you're going to have this first cross, and then if you move to the left, you're going to have the second cross. You're going to take your strand on your working end and pass it over the first cross and then under the second cross. And you're just going to come straight out and continue holding down that tail with your thumb. Now, you're just don't rotate your work around or anything. Leave it facing the same orientation. You're going to take this strand and move it down and then move this one up a little bit. You're going to see that there's this string that goes under 2. That is the string that you're going to come under next. So you're just going to take that working end and go under there and over the one at the top. Now, I rotate around just slightly, and I have this string that is coming under 2. So I am going to go under that string because we're making our under 1 over 1 sort of casanat or box pattern that's going to be filled in eventually. So then we're going to go over 1 and then under 1. And this one has 2 coming over it right now, so that's how you can tell that one needs to be split. And then there's just one more step. So now I rotate back around to where my standing end is. And then we're just going to finish this out by going over 1. And then we're going to start doing what our standing end is doing at that point. So we're going to go over 1, under 1. And make sure that this tail does not get in this loop at this point. Okay, now that finishes the initial pattern. So all I'm doing now is I'm just moving all of these strands to where they actually cover my foundation here fairly well. And I want to still have a little bit of space in here. So the looser this is, you know, and it's not a problem if it is loose, is what I'm trying to say. Okay, so now the important things to know about interweaving this is we're going to follow this string. So we're following the standing end. When we go up the knot, we're going to be on the right-hand side of it. When we're coming down the knot, we're going to be on the left-hand side of it. And so you're going to just keep that in your mind. So with that being said, we're going to follow this up on the right, and then we're going to go over this one, and then we're going to go under 2, just like this. Over 1, under 2. Now we're on the left-hand side of that same string. So now it goes over 1, under 1. So we're going to do the same exact thing as it is doing, and we're just going to stay on the left-hand side of it till we come out the bottom of the button. Now that we've come out the bottom, this is the next strand that we have to go over. So now we're on the left-hand side of this string as it's coming through here. So it comes over this one, under this one, and then over again. So it's going to be a over 2 because we're coming over this one and this one, under 1, and then at the top it's going to be over 1. And then I just shift that back over to where it stays on the left-hand side since we're going up. So now that we're at the top, this is that over 1 I just talked about, and then we're going to go under. So this is where we start splitting our pairs. So this is the string that we're going by, right? Usually it would be under 2 and there wouldn't be a pair there. So we're just going to keep doing the same thing, and it's going to split that pair that we formed. Oops, I got a twist. Let me see if I can. There we go. Okay, so just like that. Now we're just going to get back on that same track, and since it's over here on the left-hand side of our string that we're working with, we're going to go over 2, under 1. Okay, now pick it back up. We're going to stay on the right-hand side of this string, doing the same thing. So now we're going to go over 2 again, like normal, but we're splitting a pair. So now we're going over 2, under 2, instead of under 1. Okay, now over 1, under 2, and you're splitting another pair. Now, since we had that pair, we go over 2, under 1, and go on top of the standing end. The more times you go over the top of that standing end, the more secure that standing end is going to be in your final braid. Okay, now we have 2 pairs of pairs. So now we're going to go over 2, under 2 again, and then it's just going to change the number we have to go over at the top here. So now you've got one strand coming this way, another strand coming here. So you're going to go over 2, under 2, splitting a pair again. Now we come to another pair. So we're going to go over 2, and then instead of under 1, we're going to go under 2. Now, this is our last pair. Now that we're on this right-hand side of our standing end, this is our last pair. The standing end is this loop right here. So I want to come out on the left-hand side of that loop. So I'm going to go split my pair, and then as I go to bury it, I'm going to go on the left-hand side of this loop that I just identified, and I'm just going to go all the way out the very end of the button. I don't know how many it's run under at this point, but it's the easiest way to bury this string in here, and it needs to be on the left-hand side of this loop whenever you do it. Otherwise, it doesn't sit right at the very end. Okay, so now that I've got that, that finishes out my pattern. So then we'll go into how to finish this button. All I did is I just took a little sponge with a little bit of water in it, wetted this down so that I can get it to seat really well. The things to pay attention to are these edges and whether they cover your foundation all the way. So like right here, right now, the foundation is exposed, so I don't have the braid covering enough. So I'm just gonna show you what I do here. All I do is I identify that first loop up here where that standing end is, and I just tighten it down. And then I literally just follow it around the entire way of the braid, pulling. And whenever I pull, I'm trying to elongate this bite. And the reason I'm trying to elongate it is because that's going to help me cover my foundation. So I just continue rotating around, and I continue to pull and pull away from me so that it elongates these V's. And I'm not really cranking down super hard on this. I am just attempting to seat these braids really well, fairly tightly, but not excessively tight. And the reason why I don't want to do it excessively tight is because it'll pull up over your foundation as well if you have it too tight. So this is kind of, can be a little bit of the tricky part of this. I don't always get this exactly right on the money, but the elongation of these V's seems to be the key in keeping those foundations covered, as well as not getting them too tight. And so I'm doing this kind of quickly here because this isn't really important to teach you how to do it. You're just following the same pattern, which is basically just like an over 2, under 2 pattern. And tightening all this down. And then I'll show you after we get done here with the button pliers, like the button shaping pliers that I have pulled out here, how I go through and kind of shape these buttons so that they are pretty symmetrical or pretty similar in shape to each other. I think I just have one more round to go. Uh-oh. That was the wrong one. I think we're at the end. I don't think I have one more chance around. Pull that down. Let's see if this is it. Yep, that was it. Pull those down. So pull your standing end and your working down fairly tight with a pair of pliers usually. And now we can see that we have a little bit of that cotton exposed for that foundation, but it's not very bad. It's a little worse on this side. So I'm going to try to pull everything over this direction towards me so that we can get that covered. So these are my shaping pliers. They have the teeth ground off of them. And I just use them in this manner right here. So first I'll just go around the whole thing and just give it a really light squeeze. I'm not squeezing very hard because I don't want to mash down my foundation underneath here. I just want to get this braid to kind of sit over it. So now you can see in comparison, this one's wider than this one, just by a smidge. But this is why you roll through here and you kind of shape these up the same way. And then, so I did it flat on the first time. Now I'm going to come at an angle and I'm trying to squeeze these sides and I'm trying to pull this side over my cotton foundation here is kind of the goal. So this side, they're covered fairly well. I'm just going to pick up just a smidge again, and this is going to expose some of that string underneath it. But now that is just about the same shape as the other buttons. Same width, kind of has the same dimensions. I'll just go around the edges to make sure it's picked up real nice.